بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم عدد ما في علم الله صلاة دائمة بدوام ملك الله. So Jazakallah Habab, we're here, Ramadan 2022 with our podcast. Like we described yesterday, it's non-rehearsed, it's completely on the go. Every discussion is spontaneous. It could go in any direction. As we were discussing, our hidden guest was saying whether it's Izzat Basti is on screen now. So here we are, guys.
There's no going back.
Okay, there's no going back at all.
We have a new guest.
Yeah, so let me introduce the guest. We have Mohit Shah Sahab, son of Javed Shah Sahab, very well known in the community, especially from Central Mosque, Manchester. In a sense, this podcast is unique because the people on screen are all from Central Mosque.
MashaAllah.
We have Hafiz Fahim on my right, who is the Imam at Central Mosque, Manchester.
Yourself in the middle.
Myself in the middle, I'm stuck here, but I'm stuck there as well. Central Mosque, the Khatib.
MashaAllah. Inshallah. Inshallah.
Right.
Okay, inshallah.
After the sticking point now, we're going into diving straight into it. So
I do have a few questions, by the way.
Go on.
Somebody sent a question yesterday.
Mhm.
Maybe we can start with that.
Okay.
I think it is a basic question, which we can quickly answer, then move on to something more spicy. How can I motivate myself to pray when I'm out with friends? Question 2, and how can I stay away from haram online?
Wow.
So this was directly after the podcast yesterday. Somebody sent me these messages.
Okay.
So how can I motivate myself when I'm with my friends to pray salah? Do you have some?
How can you motivate yourself? Acha. First, you should be motivated to pray full stop, regardless of where you are.
Okay.
I think that's more important, to realize the importance of namaz, etc. And then make, certain means for yourself to be able to pray, always being in a state of wudu. If you have a car, having a musalla is something we all do.
Mhm.
Something Hafiz Yasin taught me is keep in your boot a big bottle of water, just in case you need to make wudu outside. Sometimes service stations are not clean enough and what have you. I think there's many ways. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Technically,
That's what I'm trying to say. That's
okay.
all.
One thing I'd like to add to that, the best motivation that I found is have motivated friends. So if you're going out with friends, have friends who do pray salah.
Yes.
You have no choice.
Yeah,
seriously.
al-mar'u ala dini khalili. Like
Yes.
the hadith says, or kama qala alayhi salatu wassalam.
Yeah.
A person is on the religion of his friends.
Absolutely.
The religion over here means the manhaj, whatever methodology or way of life that your friends are accustomed to. Naturally you will be in that direction as well. So an example I commonly give in my talks is, if a group of friends that all pray salah are playing football, for example, at the local park or the pitch, when it comes salah time, let's say 8 of them are praying salah and they're playing 5-a-side, suppose, yeah, and 2 of them are those that don't pray salah. They will push the other 2 to come and perform salah as well.
Yeah.
And on the contrary, if 8 of them are not praying and only these 2 are, there's a very high chance that they would push them not to conduct their salah and continue the game. So you've got to facilitate, have the right friends around you.
Yeah, I like the 2-on-2, so you become famous football stars and namaz stars as well. So
They say your friends make you or break you, innit?
They
Make you or break
Absolutely,
you.
If I may,
Go on.
I think the issue is most people, they have enough motivation. It's just sometimes you lack discipline to act on that motivation. If you look all around us, we could have the best of friends. We could have people who remind us of Allah every single day. But if we don't act upon that, then the motivation, it doesn't
I
take
can't
you
remember where, but I heard somewhere that it's not praying that people find difficult or tiresome or anything. It's actually wudu.
Yeah, especially
So-
washing the feet.
Yeah, so being in the state of wudu,
Yeah.
that's the actual one thing. If you're going to be lazy, is you can't be bothered to go and put water on yourself. So staying in the state of wudu is the best preparation, that you can do.
I remember it was a bank holiday a long time ago when we were young, and we took a couple of cars. I think about 15 of us went to Lake District, and one of the dads there, I still have respect for this man. He said, "Can you please take my son along? He's a bit of a gunda, and I want him to have some good company."
Is that one of those Pakistani gunde or British gunda?
I don't know what he was. I think he's half caste. So when we went to Lake District, he used to swear in every sentence. It was just natural
Okay.
for him to swear. he comes back after spending a whole day with us, and the next day his father rings me. He goes, "Both shukriya," you know what he does now, because when we were looking at the beautiful mountain, we kept on saying Subhanallah, Subhanallah. He goes, before he used to swear in every sentence, now he says Subhanallah and swears in every sentence. So it's an improvement. So
is that an improvement?
So I was thinking about the football and the namaz. At least, and other thing, something about like discipline. Usually youngsters say, "How do we get motivated?" As the question was, and then Shah Sahib was saying, "How do you get disciplined?" Some people say fear of Allah, but I think what really works is love of Allah. There were these two lads.
You have to be true with your relationship with your Lord.
Yeah.
And when that relationship is genuine and it's true, then you will go out of your way in order to please Him.
Yeah.
How do you emotionally get them to their Lord? So I went to one house once, and the family were there, and they said, "Oh, our two sons are coming in, and they're also Gunde, and so can you preach tell them the fear of Allah?" So when they sat down, all the family was behind, like waiting, like he's gonna like really tell them about the fear. I began to tell about the mercy of Allah and how Allah forgives you and all that. And they were like being disappointed at the back. They were like, so we can do anything, and if we ask forgiveness up to like sincerely, then everything's forgiven, except the one thing that we intend to do later. I said, well, you haven't done it yet. You don't know whether all this. Anyway, those two gangsters have now become police officers. Though their sister rang me and said, though they wear the uniform on top, they walk still like Gunde. Anyway, but the thing is, the point is,
nowadays you can't tell the difference between policemen and gangsters.
Yeah, okay. This is
that's inside stories.
It's inside stories, that is.
By the way, as we speak, we do have a PC amongst us.
Oh, we do.
Oh,
So,
yes.
sitting at the back.
You want to make sure. Be careful about what you say.
Yeah, even when
But
they're out of uniform.
Salah in itself is, from one of the reasons, the philosophies, the falsafa behind Salah, is to instill discipline in an individual's life anyway.
Yeah.
Is to give an order, discipline in your life. So where you're disciplined to wake up in the morning at Fajr Salah, and Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, you're disciplining yourself to give yourself a structure to your day.
Routine. Yeah.
A routine, getting to a routine, and getting to the routine of remembering your Lord throughout the day with time lapses.
Yeah.
So whether you're at work, you're coming back from work, you're with fam, before going to bed, whilst you're sleeping, you wake up. All of this is not only a commitment that you are displaying with your Lord, but it is discipline, isn't it? And as life goes on, you see the buzurgs that become so strong upon their salah. No matter where they travel and whatever time changes that take place, they would never miss their salah.
They will miss it. Then, yeah, absolutely.
Because they're in that routine now.
I was
For some, it becomes you won't survive without food. For these people, they can't survive without salah.
But what about those people who can't survive without friends? So basically, it's like pleasing friends. That's the main problem. Like, oh, my friends, what are they going to think? I'm going to interrupt their good joke now, and so therefore I can't go and read Salah, or I'm going to interrupt the meal or the football match or whatever. So I think you have to go, like, if you say to them, oh, please Allah instead, that's not going to mean much to them, because their friends are in front of them. Allah is not in front of them and can't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of the things you do, instead of saying please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they, you have to talk to people according to the level that they click, And there was something that we used to say, like, do the right thing. I think they made movies on this as well, like, do the right thing, especially, black gangsters. I'm a gangster. Like, these black gangster movie was like, do the right thing sort of thing. And they would do whatever they thought was right. So if you not to say put Allah out the picture, but basically people understand certain lingo, and if you click onto their lingo, what Hafsa was saying, then you get onto the discipline and the practice, and then one day it'll become like part of you. What was the other question?
Could I just add to that? Part of discipline is knowing the consequences of not doing it. So learning about the severity of missing salah is one thing that you should do. And it is a grave sin, it's a major sin. So to educate yourself on the importance of praying it, and likewise the severity of missing it. Like, just read the Quran. Even Salatul Khawf is something that I find truly astonishing, that even in the midst of war, you still have to pray. And how to pray, there's an entire methodology the Quran gives us. And the Quran finishes with beautifully, after explaining the procedure of that prayer, Inna salata kanat ala al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. That salah is at a prescribed time. So educating yourself to how important it is, how Allah has stressed it and commanded us so many times, wa aqim as-salah, أقيموا الصلاة وأقيموا الصلاة لذكري is one of the ways that you can instill that discipline into yourself. I think
Education, the all-out
Education,
best
yeah.
way of doing it.
is
Maybe
education.
Hafsab should, in your central masjid, maybe you should have something not really for Islamic study students, but for like the general public, and speak about this level of like that level of education, not that level. My hand was
Yeah, during
low
Ramadan
there,
there are
yeah.
few plans in place, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah, that would be
Go
really
ahead.
good. When you talk about, and Salah is all important, not just Tarawih, which many people turn up at the masjid and we don't see him after. But the thing is, what you just said there, I always find that when you talk about love, people connect to it. When you talk about fear, people don't connect to it. And I think one of the reasons is we're not living in, and I've been there to India, Gujarat, where the Hindus are suppressing the Muslims, but we're living in England, it's comfortable here, so we
Yeah.
don't understand fear, but you understand love.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think
it's a land of
it
love.
differs. I think it differs person to person.
yeah, and I think as much as we'd love it to be that love works, it doesn't last. That's why Allah does remind us of His punishment. If that wasn't the case, then Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim would be enough. We don't need to hear about Shadidul Iqab and Sariul Hisab. Wouldn't need it. So fear, not to create a community of fear or a tradition of fear, but faith is between love and fear, isn't it? You
بين
need to have
الخوف والرجاء
That's it.
الإيمان بين الخوف والرجاء. So you gotta have both elements of your da'wah. So any
Definitely.
imam, anyone that's preaching, yes, it could be led by love, but with that reminder of the khawf as well.
Oh,
I like that, led by love, controlled by fear.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's how it should be done. Otherwise, either extreme could be taken out of proportion.
That's a good way to click or connect, as they say. Like, you're led by love, but you're controlled by fear. I once said to one person who in a particular family wasn't praying, I said, when he dies, don't bury him in a Muslim graveyard. He's going to give taklif to the other neighbors. Yeah, and he looked at me like that. I said, no, I'm not joking. Hey, Dad, don't bury him. And, like something that they
That's
have
the
to click
fatwa
to.
of Huzur Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, Huzur Ghusi Pak alayhi rahmah, that do not bury somebody that doesn't pray his daily 5 salahs. Don't bury him amongst Muslims.
Sultan Bahram says he's worse than pigs and swine.
Wow.
Yeah, and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal chopped their head off.
Now, this month of Ramadan,
Well,
it's a month of discipline, isn't it?
yes.
Yeah.
Where we're disciplining our nafs with
Yeah.
food,
Yeah.
with hunger, with thirst. Similarly, majority of the Muslim Ummah would be praying their 5 salahs in the month of Ramadan.
Yeah.
If our journey to our Lord is genuine in the month of Ramadan, then it should have a knock-on effect in your personality, on your tabi'ah, in your
How
jibillah.
do you make it genuine?
So, genuine meaning, that's a difficult one. Genuine meaning,
It's our podcast, isn't it? So go on.
genuine meaning, like,
Does it always have to be genuine? Sometimes you might start in genuine,
Yeah.
and what you find is that the worship
Mashallah.
itself
How come,
refuses.
That's
today
what the
when I said
shaitan
I had
does.
I had some topic up my sleeve.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what the topic was of today,
Huh.
which was selfishness and false pretense.
So Imam Ghazali addresses this quite well in his Ihya. He says, you start with good intentions, and later on, shaitan will make his way in,
Yeah.
and he'll divert you. Now you start praying your daily 5 salahs lillah, for Allah alone. So when I say genuine, it means sincerity, it means khulus. Who are you doing it for? It's for you, it's between you and your Lord. You're not doing it just to show your parents. You're not doing it for any other type of acknowledgement in the community.
What about fake it until you make it? In other words, do it for your parents, do it for Jannah. You're not really doing it for
Yeah.
Allah, but then
I would say
You have to be
there's
chosen.
pretense for that.
Yeah.
I'd say some people, they might not have the best intentions, but if they remain consistent on what they do, that namaz will change them.
Will
Inna
change
salata
them,
tanha
that's
anil
right,
fahsha'i wal munkar.
absolutely,
It will
absolutely.
eventually change
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
That takes quite a while.
Yeah.
Because then I had a question when I was teaching to one of the kids, and he was saying, but Afsab, we see elders in our community that have been praying for 50 odd years. We've seen them in the first row in the salahs, in Jamaat for the last 10 years of their life. But Babaji still swears.
Yeah.
He's still scamming the system. He's
Yeah.
still doing fraud. He does all the other sins. But why is Salah not affecting him?
Yeah. Imam Ghazali rahmatullah says, when you pray in the first saf, you have a beautiful spiritual feeling. Try praying in the last saf. If you get the same feeling, then you're genuine.
You know, Imam Qushayri in Risala Qushayriya,
Ji.
he narrates a story that there was a buzurg who would pray every salah first row with the takbir tahrima, and one time he was late
Okay.
and he had to pray at the last row.
Yeah.
and he found it so difficult to pray that salah.
Yeah.
And he's in salah and he's looking to his right and left, and he's like, and everyone's deeking him basically. That your Babaji is late today.
Yeah,
That's big for him.
Yeah.
And that pressure is piling on his salah.
Yeah.
But when he finished salah, and this is where the genuineness comes in, he realized, me, for all those several years, first row, takbir tahrima, that was all fake.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that Buzurg repeated several years of his salahs, knowing that all of that was done with the wrong intention, motivation.
Right, I'm going to ask you a tough question now. I don't know why I'm
It was tough, man.
Okay, so let's just say you took your buggery off.
Okay.
Yeah. And let's just say your beard was slightly, less, but okay,
That's
not less than 4.
Okay, I've just come out from the barbers, I guess.
Okay, just out of the barbers, yeah. Let's just say you weren't dressed in salwar kameez, you were in like jeans with a long shirt, so you cover yourself, yeah. Would you dare to, obviously Staravi and let's just say Central Masjid, with the topi on, of course, but you go in and pray like that? Because according to the Sharia, you're not dressed incorrectly in that kind of way, but wouldn't that be a test of sincerity? Because
It would
everybody
be,
looks at
but
you
but those that know me, I already have some work outside of the religious field of preaching.
That's on
and
the roof, though. I'm
Yeah.
talking
No,
about
so,
on the
but
ground.
to
so
purposely-
whenever I'm in that dress code,
Yeah.
at times I probably can't even find a topi. I've just got to pray that way in that clothing.
Okay.
But
So-
to purposely do that would be a very bad thing, because the Quran commands us that خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ
Yeah.
كُلِّ masjid. You should adorn yourself for
And
the
there
mosque.
are adab
Yeah.
of an imam
Yes.
that he has to conduct his life by.
وَلِبَاسُ
Because you've got to
التَّقْوَى.
set that benchmark.
Yes.
Yeah. So isn't it? Let's just say, for one way or the other, that the public knows what you're doing, but it's a litmus test for you personally. Yeah, because we know great awliya who used to go around but not be recognized as beggars.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for the.
I mean, this
tazkiyah.
you'll experience. For at least I speak of the Aima Hazrat, those that are always leading salah and they are head of the community in that sense.
Yeah.
When you go to the Haramain Sharifain and you're doing tawaf in the middle of hundreds of thousands,
Yeah.
that's when you start to realize I'm
Not
nothing.
recognized.
Yeah. I'll
I
tell
may
you-
be the Imam of Central Mosque
Yeah.
and I'm upon the mimbar and I'm leading the khutbah, whatever. But when you go to Haramain Sharifain and you realize you're like a speck of dust.
I'll tell you one thing, that there's many dhikr majlises we attend, alhamdulillah, but to me they don't do it. There was one dhikr majlis I went with yourself, and I won't mention the sheikh's name, but the first time I went no one knew who I was, and I really felt the dhikr then. Best feeling, you just one person out of not million but dozens that were there.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's when you have that genuine,
yeah.
That's
come back to that genuine thing
Sometimes
again.
positions of leadership, they do take away that spiritual aspect sometimes, because it's difficult to lead from the front, innit? It's difficult.
I'm going on to people. We're talking about ulama here. Let's go on to like husbands and fathers and other community members as well. So like when a father comes back home, he has this sort of robe, this sort of awe, and
His presence.
his presence, and sometimes he puts it on as well before he comes in the front door.
When he opens the
in
door,
order, like control and that kind of thing. Or a husband in front of his wife, he puts on a certain tone of voice. We all know how to do that. So, but the thing is,
he's just basically doing qawamun. Anyways,
but
Qawwalud.
would that be considered to be false pretense if all you're trying to do is keep, according to your authority, keep control so everything runs smoothly?
That's not false. I think that's perfect.
That's a good. That's
You should
appropriate.
adjust yourself to there's nowadays people, social media trying to create this character within people. Be who you are no matter what.
Yeah.
But that's as beautiful as you think it may sound. It's from the deceptions of shaitan, I believe.
It
You
is.
should adjust who you are depending on your context.
Yes.
You should adjust how you speak depending on who you're speaking to.
Yeah.
and also with position comes responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was,
You either don't take that position if you have decided to marry, and then you have to have that presence, that responsibility that comes with it. You naturally have agreed to it, haven't you?
Yeah.
When you've decided to have children, you've decided to take on that fatherly role.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to be a father and you don't know how to discipline that child or your children that you're going to have, then you should have never taken that position.
Yeah, I wish people
I've
told us
got a
that, yeah.
question. We'll extend this to Muhammad Ali Shah as well.
Yeah.
When you do put on your robe and you do put on your turban, etc., and you pray as opposed to when you don't, do you personally, to everybody on the panel, feel a difference in the prayer? So if you were to pray outside of this clothing and then you to pray in this clothing, do you actually feel a difference? What I'm asking is, does clothing and attire make a difference to the ikhlas of your prayer or the feeling or whatever?
Go on, Shadi, you answer this one.
From my experience, I've got, let's put it in two examples. I've got one jubba with full sleeve that I'm wearing right now, and then one with half. Even in that, I feel like the full sleeve one is more appropriate, and therefore how we should prepare, you know, how they say clean your house if you're expecting guests. Same way we should prepare ourselves, you know, the way we do wudu, the way we dress ourselves. And
What
especially
I'm asking is, do you feel it though? So when you do put your jubba on, when you do put your turban on, do you feel that prayer is different is what I'm asking?
Yeah, I think so. I think the first time I led Tarawih, I was like a mini Imam Mu'in, and the way I, saw him put his
Yes, I remember that
his
day.
top on, and I
remember that.
you'd walk behind him, and people would come up to you and say salam. So you feel a little different compared to when you enter the masjid just to go sit down and read behind the Imam. So personally, yeah.
That ovation is different to as in dress code, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it does work, but what we come back to the Aima Hazrat, we become accustomed to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and we may not feel that impact as compared to the layman, because when he puts it on, for him it's unique. For him, it's probably once a week on a Jummah, or once a year on Eid, where he's going to put those clothing in,
Right.
and himself, that's him to his level of understanding, spiritually trying to connect. May it be with that clothing on.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is good.
It's quite
unique.
unfortunate nowadays that people do turn to the mosque with no effort in terms of dressing them. So even Christians themselves will make an effort for their Sunday, they'll put on their Sunday best. It's quite unfortunate that those people...
So like how to khudu zinatakum.
Yeah.
You mean you have to take that adornment, you got to make yourself clean, which is from the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, to always keep yourself clean, presentable. Presentation is always there. The Sahabi that he saw who had wealth but didn't display that, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam pinned him for it. I mean, you have the wealth, why do I not see it?
There's an Attire, isn't it? إِذَا أَوْسَعَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ فَأَوْسِعُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِكُمْ.
Yeah.
If Allah has been generous to you and opened the doors of rizq, be generous with yourself, it's not a problem.
Show the blessings of Allah
Sure.
subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can the layman speak? So basically, I wore a white buggery.
Mashallah.
Somebody gave me white. And
I've actually never seen you that.
You never seen me, and you won't, I don't think. Basically, I wore it, and I went to my local masjid. As I wore it, I came down. My mum says Subhanallah, my dad says Subhanallah, my wife says Subhanallah. So anyway, when I went to there were some friends on the way, Subhanallah. When I went to the masjid, Subhanallah, I was thinking, wait a minute, this thing. You have to be honest with yourselves, especially. Talk about a bit of education, reading books of Imam Ghazali.
Yes.
You think, let me just check myself out. So then I wore it for a little while. Some businessmen actually came to me, make dua. I was wearing the buggery.
Next to the Imam's putting you forward as well.
You're talking of those times, which let's say 30 odd years back.
Yeah.
At that time, it was quite out of the ordinary to wear a turban.
It was.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Compared to
hardly.
times now,
Oh, yeah.
it's quite common. This
Yeah.
sunnah, alhamdulillah, has picked up.
Yeah.
There are particular movements, Dawat Islami and others, that everybody wears it. So now it's become kind of the norm.
Yeah.
30 years back,
So are we agreeing then that attire does have an impact on your spiritual
I
state of the prayer?
I think it definitely
it
does.
does,
In
yeah.
fact, I think even if you do wudu with like khushu, with like concentrating and reading every dua of every limb that you are,
Yeah.
I honestly think it definitely does have an impact. Definitely does have an impact.
agreed. Tried, tested, works.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing, and the other thing is,
Shall we go to the next question? We've still a question.
That could even conclude that first question as well. As
Yeah.
I know quite a few people who don't wear the jubba on a daily basis, but they will pack one because in their break times they will go to the mosque,
Yeah.
and I find that very beautiful.
Yeah.
They're gonna adorn themselves for the sake of Allah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
so.
very
Brother,
beautiful.
Their
if he-
outward display
Yeah.
of spirituality, at least.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we always talk about in games and other things like who dares wins. So basically, for this brother, like a bit of a dare. He's from Ramdhan Chief anyway. The
Okay.
devil's all locked up. He should dress up when he
Yeah,
goes out to
go
Wimby
the full
Road
shebang,
with
yeah.
his friends next time. Yeah, because
Doing
sometimes
the road
doing-
is not hard.
sometimes doing the tawaf
But that's
is easier
populated
than
by-
going to Wimby Road.
Yeah,
Because
this dress code on the road, I don't think it's a
Some
challenge
people do
anymore.
tawaf off the road nowadays.
It'd be a
Up and
challenge
down
if you
7
go.
times.
up in it.
It'd be a challenge if you go Trafford Centre with that. Not Windsor Road, because Windsor Road is now full of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's wearing it on Windsor Road now.
Yeah, even in Blackpool they're wearing it. Acha, so
Question two. Moving on. I'm gonna have to cut you guys. How do I stay away from haram online?
So
Okay.
In the month of Ramadan, he's asking this question.
the most blunt answer would be is don't go online.
Don't go
Cut
online.
it off, go full on
Which is
cold
great,
turkey.
but, you know, can I connect the two? Because I think actually, Qudratiyya, I think is connected.
Okay.
You know, is being true to yourself and talk about false pretense, etc.
Hmm.
Who you are, what you think you are. Because everybody is like me, I, you know,
Right.
individualism, the world of individualism, yeah, which runs modern
Yep.
society. What else runs modern society? Even the president, individualism, yeah. So if you know who you are, and that's where the starting point is, to keep off social media becomes easy. I'm telling you, it becomes like social media becomes allergy for you.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I know one person sitting in this room who's cancelled his Facebook, alhamdulillah, this Ramzan Sharif.
What?
So,
Mash.
Nari Takbir. So, but the thing is that
Allah.
he knew who he was. He
Yeah.
thought, you know what, I am such and
Is
such
that for
a
good or
person.
just Ramadan?
No, for Ramadan. At the moment, inshallah,
Mashallah.
hopefully it will continue afterwards as well.
Inshallah.
See what
Yeah.
the Eid speech brings. So, but the thing is, the reason why I think if you put a person in position, as you say, more responsibility, it can swing either way. It's a
Yeah.
great test for one's character. Are you going to keep the position that Allah has given you, or are you going to fear? Talk about fear. That the worst fear is Allah may take me away from this position.
Yes.
So that kind of, you know, if it has a otherworldly effect, like Imam Ghazali says, death is, why don't we fear death? Because we think, oh, we don't know when it's going to come. But if you think death is right here now, then you fear. So people fear the loss of authority in the dunya more than the akhirah.
Yep.
So if it's like, if you're in a position of an imam or father, older brother, who you know, gang leader, then basically you don't want to lose face. And I think that's like a starting off point. So with social media, if you're on social media, in Facebook, so if you think, wait a minute, you know, for example, I'm gang leader, so, or these are my friends or relatives on Facebook, fitna book, and if we look at what the other people will think of me, yeah, then you start being. I know some people who want to act gangster anyway, yeah, and so that's their thinking of themselves. But some people think, you know, it's Ramadan, and you know, I know I'm not a good guy, but you know what, I'm gonna prove something. You know, one of the things I found is everybody's after proving something. I asked my ustadi once, I said, you know, when I do some good community work out there and I go home and my wife asks me and my mum asks me, like, you know, what did you do? Am I supposed to tell them? Because when they say, oh, subhanallah, well done, and all this kind of thing, then I don't want to feel pride. He goes, don't tell your wife unless she supports you, but tell your mum she's only going to give you dua. Yeah, so it's like who
Because
you
your parents
are.
always want your
My
success.
wife, I think, is going to listen to this tomorrow. Joe,
Oh,
doesn't
you
matter.
had it.
I think addressing the question on how to tackle social media,
Yeah.
first and foremost, obviously education. Being blunt and saying come off it is not reality. No one's
Can
gonna
we
come
say
off it.
education about oneself?
Definitely that falls
Because
into
that
that.
matters.
Religious education as well. There is a fiqh of social media as well, and
Mm.
how to a person should conduct themselves on social media. They should learn these things,
Yeah.
and then depending on who you are, recognizing who you are, there are things you can do. For example, I've seen that what works is a person just to have a authoritative member of their family, like an uncle or a father or something, follow them on the same account. Now they know that someone's observant of who they follow, and they're on edge about it. There's a student, I won't mention him, who's on Instagram, and both me and Hafiz Mohin, we followed them, just to make sure what he's doing. And now he's observant of what he does. You know what I'm trying to say?
What if
Yeah.
you made a fake account and a
Yeah,
second
they
account?
can do that. But there are small steps you can do like that.
I mean,
will-
my nephew says that, like your sister is following me. In other words, his own mum, yeah, but she does not have another phone.
Yeah.
So the whole point, I think, but it's a brilliant. I've said it, brilliant, but it's like a starting off point.
Fiqh
Yeah.
of social media,
Yeah.
definitely. I think it's a subject that should be taught,
yeah. See,
especially to the youth. So
Yeah.
those that we know that we had, our youth qiyam nights in,
Yes,
Central Mosque.
Oh yeah.
So one of these subjects we had was the harms of social media.
okay.
So we had, what was it, in PC Paul or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Luke, PC Luke, sorry.
Yeah.
And he came in and he delivered a PowerPoint mentioning of the harms of social media to the kids. In terms of course, you has the exposure to the adult content. He mentioned that as well. But then the risk you put yourself in terms of people online completely robbing you. You get these links coming in, for example, open this and you'll get so much money, or you're
There's
getting
lot of
a
scam.
package or something. You're gonna get delivery something. They open that link, thinking, yeah, probably got something coming through.
Yeah.
But before you know it, they've taken all your money. There's so much harm that people do.
Yeah.
There's your accounts are being hacked, your accounts are being followed. You don't realize what's going on.
Social media, entire thing has been designed to go against Islam. You know, there's so many preachers on it, but at the end of the day, the whole thing is un-Islamic. Full stop. You know, it goes against one of the foundational aspects of religion, min husni islam al-mar tarkuhu ma la ya'ni. That from the perfections of of a person's Islam is to leave that which doesn't concern you. Social media is built upon telling you that which doesn't concern you.
Surah
Following
Mu'minun,
people.
for example, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ
Muridun. So all of those qualities Allah
which means
lists, it goes against.
that, so it's a list of like 15 traits, character traits of mu'mineen sifat, and the third one described is hum anil lagwi muridun, that which is not necessary, that is wasteful, muridun, which means they basically turn their face away from it.
I think what it is, we need to make the viewers know, you can't make them come out of social media.
That's not
we
rude.
need to come to that understanding.
Yeah, we realize that we're not stopping social media in any way. There's no
So-
stopping it.
What's the solution? The one that Mullah Fahim is giving, that's good as well. But one that I have experienced myself from the past 4 or 5 weeks now, like they say, the ulama say prepare for Ramdhan. So this is how I've been preparing. And I mentioned at your house as well, positive thinking.
Okay.
That's all. If you can have a mind of thinking correct, that's all you need. You can have
Positive mindset.
you can have the social media in front of you, but just thinking positive, you can control everything.
Expand on positive.
Like positive thinking is, for example, if you get a bad thought of doing a sin, for example, you automatically at that moment in time think good of doing something good at the same time.
But doesn't that require a lot of discipline though?
Not really.
Like for the not so disciplined people, youngsters, maybe
Yeah.
Moed Ali can comment on that.
Sheikh Sarad's Bayan that I watched, you can find it online, Jinns and thingy, what was it? Jinn and it's called Jinn and Mental Health. That's it. This is Bayan.
I said jinn and social media.
Jinn and mental health. In that he's mentioned the thing.
There is a Twitter account that claims to be a jinn. I don't know if you know about that.
Ah, yes, I know.
Interesting. Right.
Yeah.
All right. But is it a genie then?
Apparently, if you message it, it will tell you things about yourself.
Oh,
I don't know if it's still about, but this is going back a few years.
So what he said is
Maybe
that you should have a wristband
Cultural
on.
law.
If you have a wristband on, whenever you think bad, you just look at the wristband or flick the wristband and force you to
Yeah.
think good.
But what I'm trying to say is that's beautiful.
That's
But it
still
does
requires
require discipline. Even when you say, Sheikh so and so gives advice, the people who are listening to Sheikh so and so are already somewhat disciplined to be there, isn't it? Well, what I would say for people, maybe Moed Ali in your social circle, that sort of age range, that sort of not so disciplined, not so religious folk, what advices would you give
I
them?
mean, we're
Maybe
giving
to
advice based off our age groups.
our age groups, yeah.
I'm probably 10 years older than Hafiz
Yes.
Moed Shahzab.
Not Hafiz yet, inshallah.
But
Inshallah.
inshallah soon. But you're leading some Tarawih. Okay. Shahzab,
Or maybe from, coach.
how would you?
I think the point that Hafiz Fahim made on discipline and what Mr. Mike said about fearing the state, fearing death. I think Hafiz Fahim wanted, today in Tarawih, Hafiz Yasin read the ayah "Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut," meaning every soul shall taste death. So it's something that's inevitable. It's gonna happen.
Okay.
But I think one time you mentioned it's not about the fear of death. It's about the fear of the state that you're in when you die. So, and this links back to what you said about the role of fathers. Fathers have how they put on an aura and they have this type of personality when it comes. I think the reason that they do it is because they know it's their responsibility to instill discipline into their children. So if people nowadays have, especially my age, very, very ungrateful, and it's sad thing to see myself. We've been ungrateful at times, my siblings, but you don't see that what they do is based on what they know, and what they know is the thing that they need to guarantee is that I can make you the best Muslim I can do as much as I can,
Okay.
and from there you go forward. So In terms of being disciplined to leaving social media has, we learn many things from social media, so I think there's a lot of benefits.
I don't think so. I would contest and challenge that.
Ji.
There's a lot of knowledge content on there, but you
Yeah.
never learn a single thing.
Mm.
You could read 15 hadith beautifully recited by some guy who knows how to pronounce his Arabic letters, but you won't memorize a single one. Like, meaning it doesn't stick. Someone asked me, these circles that we sit in, so many beneficial things we say, why don't I share this content? And I said, the moment I share it, it becomes so cheap that, sometimes we scroll across a quote that people walked thousands of miles to hear it from the mouth of a sheikh, and it shattered their hearts and changed their lives, and all we do is flick our thumb across it. And it's not the quote that lost its power, it's the way we came across it. So, there is a lot of knowledge content out there, but I don't think you can learn from it. A lot of people are trying to learn from social media.
The access to knowledge has now become so easy, but it's now embracing that knowledge.
Yeah.
Is what's
Isn't that
become
an
the
irony?
hurdle now.
Isn't
There
that
is
an
a
irony? Back in the day, you had
paradox
to
of-
travel for knowledge, and
Yeah.
they were so knowledgeable. Now, at the tip of your finger, and we're the most.
I think there's one thing, Ustad, I was going to mention about
Gee.
paradox of choice. So, like you were mentioning, because it's so easily accessible, now if you wanted to search anything, we could do so in the matter of seconds.
Right.
And because you have all this choice and all these articles and everything that's available, however many searches in 0.001 seconds that are available, that choice, it overwhelms us. And because it overwhelms us, we choose not to absorb, the information that we have. For example, if you attend a madrasa, the information that you're given is specific. Whereas if you're on social media, and this is where, many, people are misled because of social media, there's many different arguments, many conflicting debates, that people get confused and they get overwhelmed, and instead of trying to dissect it and organize it, all the information, they just choose to ignore it and put it to the side. So I think what you're talking about, when there's too much information, paradox of choice is that.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Hafiz
salam.
Fahim mentioned a
Alaikum
very
salam.
crucial thing regards you not learning anything from social media.
Mm.
And we discussed this yesterday with Hafiz Uzair as well. The difference between picking up a book and holding a phone and listening to a bayan face to face, because let's be really, really real. As much as we are connected and in love with our devices, our hearts can never be connected to something which is digital, and that's a reality of it. Same with listening to the Quran, and as you would listen to it in Taraweeh, it would not penetrate your heart as it would face to face. So receiving information from a book and face to face from an alim in the masjid with a human being and not digitally, that's really important. So hopefully this should help those that are using Facebook and social media. This should inshallah help them to engage with it less. And another thing which I find really important to mention really quickly is it's not how much you use Facebook, it's how you use it. So for the viewers, it's something I've experienced as well, and many brothers in the room probably have also, is that you have to look at which type of people you are following on Facebook. Okay, you could be scrolling through your videos and a bayan of Sheikh Asrar would come up, a bayan of Sheikh Fahim mashallah will come up. You continue to scroll and you will see an idiot dancing on TikTok. You continue to scroll and you'll see a few more idiots dancing on TikTok in the bathroom to fahish, haram. And what's being mentioned? The haram relationship of a male and female, and we're listening to that. Okay, so you've got to look at what types of people we are following on Facebook, because if you have a Facebook page and you are just liking and commenting on the Islamic post, that's good for you. But because you have so many people on your friend list that are not liking and commenting on the halal stuff, it's just haram stuff, who's that going to impact? You. Because you're mutual friends and you're connected. And then you have to look at which types of people they're following. And then they're following.
Can I
And
add
this
something
is
to that?
why you'll never be able to benefit from
Even
that hadith.
even the social media mashayikh that are there, that are putting this content out there, you can take benefit from them, but what people have fallen into this delusion of, it's enough. It's enough for me to watch Sheikh Asrar's lectures to learn about the fiqh of prayer. That's not enough. You have to physically go to a sheikh, go to a maulana and learn that fiqh from that person. You know, nowadays there's so many speakers out there. Just because they got a beard or a turban on, we assume that they're the right person to speak.
Traditionally, remember, knowledge was
From the field.
always passed on from chest to chest,
Chest to
from
chest.
heart to heart, and thus when it penetrated the hearts, it remained in the hearts and it changed hearts.
Yeah, even I would, you know, myself, I wouldn't put anything out on the social media because I don't believe that I've truly understood or tasted Islam for me to then to be the person to preach it like that.
Hmm.
You know, they say in the Arabic language, "Man dhaqa arafa al-madhaq."
Hmm.
Man dhaqa araf. Said Sheikh Salih al-Ja'fari. He says, whoever has tasted it, he knows. Like if I was to tell you now, dragon fruit is a very bitter sweet. Would you agree with me?
Never tried.
For those who tasted it.
For
Yeah.
those who tasted it, only those who tasted could agree with me. So, you know, people who are preaching the deen out there, we don't know how they live the deen. You have to go physically to your local scholar, your local allama, and see those people who have tasted religion, who know what religion is, then you can take religion from them.
You know, that's exactly what I was going to say. In the old days, you had to travel.
That's it.
And
Travel
these
or not, but
days-
it's from heart to heart, isn't
Heart
it?
to heart.
Even if look, you could have a Maulana and an Alama who's spent all his life traveling, but he's come back embracing all that knowledge, and he's sat in that hujra or in that mihrab of the masjid, and you may consider him to be like, oh, he's just a Mulvi.
Yeah.
Mm.
But you don't realize the effort he's put in and what he can pass on from his heart is more than what you will ever gain on social media.
It's not him, it's us. Like we were told when we were kids,
Yes, the
if
problem
you
is
find
us.
a fakir at the bottom of the mountain, you're not going to appreciate him. But if you have to travel right on top of the mountain to meet him, you
Mm.
will appreciate. You have to actually do that at one
May,
place.
may I add?
Go on.
I was going to mention about how social media, it, you know, for the mashayikh who are on there, I think it extends their reach to those, let's say, who are cannot travel to a so-called masjid. Nowadays, not really prevalent, but I think it extends the reach, but the quality of that reach
Yeah.
is very, very poor.
Yeah.
So, how you come across a post and, like you were saying, you scroll past it. You know, you're not absorbing you're absorbing the information in your short-term memory, and that's it. But if you really want to act upon that and, you know, understand it, you need someone there, because you can never replace the human teacher. You can never.
It's not real ilm. Ilm
Yeah.
is with istad. Ilm has to
Yeah.
have a physical attachment to that
Yeah.
person.
I think Shah was talking about an alternative, but okay, let's stop talking about Sheikh Asrar because you just text me. Acha,
Alright.
so the other thing which I was going to say was,
Well, his
you know,
biggest fan mentioned
when,
himself.
when I had my first daughter, the eldest one, and my wife said, oh, she did something naughty, go and tell her. And you know, when you come back from work, you just want to be daddy, you know, you don't want to. But anyway, I'll bang, bang, going up the stairs on purpose. Yeah, when I went upstairs, I swung up the door, just sort of acting a bit. He said, I'm really angry. And then I didn't know what to say. I said, and then he came out like, I'm really angry, but not at you, at myself, because I don't know what to do. Because I was a new daddy.
Mashallah.
But she appreciated that, so she became daddy's girl. So anyway, the one of the things is with social media as well, if it's not there, if Facebook is not there, then you're not going to sin. The problem is that when something is there, then you have a choice, shall I sin or shall I not sin?
Mm.
Yeah, but if something isn't there, you're not going to sin.
Mm.
Yeah, so if
But,
you're...
but like Boladra was mentioning, it's not about social media as a totality being wrong. It's the use of it that becomes wrong. And if you can control that, you can control, take advantage of it, and it can become highly beneficial as well.
Mm.
Haji, carry on. Yeah.
What I wanted to say was that it comes down to what Mullah Fahim was saying. The parents need to have a good relationship with their children. It links in with how we think about our children. If we are going to speak to our children at the age of 4 like they're a 2-year-old, they're going to think the same because my dad thinks of me as a 2-year-old. And then he'll grow old thinking that I'm still small. If we as a parent can start speaking to our children, even if they're 3 years old and 4-year-old, as if they're an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, they will come out even better.
We find that in the Quran, in the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam
Yeah.
and Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, when he asks him,
In
being a
Iraq.
young lad, just about, balagha ma'ahu sa'ya, ماذا ترى? What do you think? What's your opinion? And the Quran puts a huge stress on thinking of our children. Like today we mentioned Surah Ali Imran has been recited, alhamdulillah. I'm sure you've recited it as well. Look at the mother of Sayyidah Maryam, so conscious of the child she's about to have, making dua about that child. you know, and then Sayyidah Maryam is born and she becomes, you know, wastafaki ala nisa'il alamin. I want to mention one thing I read on social media, believe it or not. So there is some there is some benefit
Can't get away from it.
that
I think I mentioned was on social media as well.
mashallah, there you go. So,
Yeah.
You do
somebody
benefit.
came to a
So-
wise man and he said, I want you to help me with the tarbiyah of my child.
Hmm.
And the wise man asks him, how old's your child? And the person says 7 months. And he says, it's too late. He goes, how can it be too late? He said, the tarbiyah of your child begins when you pick the spouse, the mother.
Yeah.
You know,
Subhanallah.
so being conscious as parents, or parents to be in our cases, inshallah,
Yeah.
of our children is very
That's one of the
important.
problems that, you know, now we're more conscious of things like this and having like premarital advice and all that kind of thing. But, you know, like seriously, a long time ago, nobody gave premarital advice at picking your spouse. Just marry your cousin back home, and that was it.
Yes,
But
sir. Well,
anyway, but just to remind everybody, we actually on social media at the moment. Yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
cutting down social media, but we're on it. One thing which I wanted to say was, you know,
But our social media, alhamdulillah, there's no ads before it.
Alhamdulillah.
So you can
or even in the middle.
even look at our content without the fear that you'll have to go through some ads before having to see or hear the blessed
I
voice.
actually received a question about this. I'm going to put it in the iftar one. Somebody asked, he said, I do Islamic content on YouTube and he gets hundreds of thousands of views and he makes money off it. But now he's having to put up adverts which have some illicit content or not so halal content. So is that money jaiz for him and halal for him? But I thought I'd leave that for...
Okay.
another
well,
day.
That's-
yeah. Yeah.
So it's a fiqh of social media there again.
The fiqh of social
Angie,
media.
carry on.
We will have to get that in there. You know, like something like
That's something we should actually do, you know, as a subject, maybe as a topic on one of the podcasts.
Yeah.
The fiqh of social media.
I
itself.
know
We've only
Maulana,
highlighted bits of it today.
I know Maulana who's gathered 40 hadith of social media, he's called it. The 40 hadith of social
Okay,
media.
no,
so-
fair enough. That'll be interesting. It's just a shout out to your audience here, whether the audience is interested in something like that.
Yeah.
Because if they're
Like
not, then,
al-majalisu
we'll be talking
bil-amana.
ourselves.
Mm.
Something on the social
But
media.
Yeah, yeah.
in regards to social media, I think before we teach children about how to control it, we need to teach parents how to teach their children how to control it. Because if parents are using it themselves, you pro istemal karo, right? So they're going to be exactly the same.
See, every member of the community has to play their role.
Kullukum
Yeah.
ra'a.
So like
Kullukum ra'in wa
the comment that I
kullukum
used
mas'ulun
once on
ra'iyati.
Jummah was that the new, teddy bear or the new feeder of 2022 is a phone for a child.
The amount of kids videos that are on YouTube now.
No, it's not just that. If a child is crying, phone,
You just
phone does.
sling an iPad at them and
You know, one
That's
thing
it.
we talked
here's
about
80%, I'll see you in 2 hours.
Surat Al-Imran and thinking about your kids and in Islam you have to get out of our heads that there's no teenagers in Islam. You're either haven't reached the age
Wow.
of puberty or you're an adult.
That's very
When
interesting.
we say teenager, we mean it's time to mess around and you can ask
You either
forgiveness
baligh or not
afterwards.
baligh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, baligh, you're not baligh.
Fair
If you're
enough,
baligh,
yeah.
you're an adult, and that's it, you're a
Absolutely,
man.
that's an Islamic concept.
That's
Be a man.
interesting. That
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Sometimes we like to do something practical. You know, Shazab, how
Hakim
you wear
will-
your glasses.
Ji.
There's like practical stuff. Sometimes we do practical stuff. We don't
Ji.
jump on the table. We haven't got there yet because they're not brave enough.
Ji.
But you know how you wear your glasses, like a little down on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that shows maturity. Yeah. Put your glasses up, like right to the top.
Right to the top.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes you look a bit younger.
It does.
Yeah. Take them off. Take them off.
Looks like he doesn't know what he's
Yeah.
doing.
Now it's however you want to take that. So the thing is that one of the things that I did is I remember my wife, what she used to do when she wanted to teach the kids on series, she would put her glasses down like that, look like more teacher style. Do you understand that? And
Okay.
you know, like even little things like that, they really, really matter and they have an effect on you. And one of the things is, when you're teaching like that, say my wife was like teaching the kids like, she automatically would feel that I have a role, a responsibility. Now, one of the biggest problems we have is we don't accept the responsibility of the role. So, one lady, we have like an advice surgery. One lady rang the other day. She said that, I'm about to have my 8th baby now. Alhamdulillah, bless her. And basically, my husband, he's never there. Yeah. So I said, what do you mean he's never there? Like, he goes out with his friends. Yeah, he doesn't have the. It's like this is my 8th child now, and I'm like being mummy and daddy. Yeah, and what does he do? He's gone out with his friends. He's chilling out, spending time kind of. So he's not actually taken on his role as a father. Now the kids don't seem as that either. They don't seem as that either. So, but how? What would make him do that? Like, what would make us take on the role of a good, upright Muslim?
Ustad, may I also ask a question?
Go on.
So in terms of, it's adding to your question, like the role of the father, what is their role specifically? Because you know how it's to go out, traditionally to go out and provide for the family. Nowadays the narrative is that it should be a split. There should be 50%,
Interesting.
the husband,
Very good
50% the
question.
wife. This is the narrative that's among my
Can the
age.
father be blamed for a child's malpractice online, or is that the duty of the mother, Islamically speaking, and however you want to take that?
The absent parent
No.
can't be blamed
Okay.
because he's going out to provide halal income for the family for their upkeep. So initially, it's up to and also if mums and dads listening out here now, if mums and dad like spy on their children, it's not haram. If they spy on their children, like listening at their door, etc., it's not haram because it's for their tarbiyah. Yeah, I asked a number of scholars this, is it because I was a growing dad and I thought, can I spy on my kids? That kind of, they check their phone when they're not there, and this kind of, their secret diaries where they hide them, and I used to do all of that. So, but the thing is, you get to know your children a bit more. Yeah, so that's not wrong. On the other side, it's a really like critical question. Might as well ask you now on the sort of subject. Yeah. We always look at and speak a little vaguely about different members of the community, like father or scholar, etc. Yeah, but here's the point, and this was like the subject I had up my sleeve. So it like false pretense or selfishness. Doesn't it all boil down to one thing?
Which
like
is?
what makes me happy? What makes me happy? So the father thinks, yeah, I'm going to raise my kids so that when they grow up and they make me happy. The scholar thinks that, when I teach my children,
Makes
yeah,
me happy.
when will I be happy on Judgment Day? Yeah, okay. So there's different levels of happiness. I would say halal happiness and there's haram
This
happiness.
is why
and, yeah,
we call this panel Pursuit for Happiness.
Oh, there you go.
Subhanallah.
yeah, that's-
We're all pursuing happiness at the
It
end
all
of the day,
comes
aren't we?
back, doesn't it?
yeah, okay. So in fact, I was thinking about this. I was thinking if I mention this on our podcast now,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
called
yeah.
Pursuit Happiness, we should change the name. Anyway,
What?
but we were initially going
You know
to
how long it took to actually get down to that name?
Yeah.
We had several meetings.
Acha. It's
and
a very nice name.
back and forth, names were titles being thrown all over the place.
It's an emotional blackmail actually for the public. In other words,
Pursuit
to
for
get-
happiness.
If it's a pursuit of paradise, there's a what? Pursuit of
Happiness, yeah. So happiness starting now,
Yeah.
few years, few months, hereafter, whenever.
Actually, once I
Ultimately,
said,
so for-
what about pursuit for Allah? And one of the scholars said, what? You're finding Allah? Don't say that. People think you're some kind of a mentor. Finding Allah. Where is Allah? So we say, so
I
but
think
at
that
the end of
person
the
needs to
it's
look at his
selfishness,
English.
isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
selfishness.
Totally fine to say it.
Wherever people respect me, love me, I will be there. Where if they give me a maqam, they let me sit on the stage, I will be there. Where they don't
Isn't that
notice me,
human instinct?
Yeah.
That's human. But is it
That's
right or
that's
wrong?
human psychology.
Is it right
That's
or
where he
wrong?
was. That's where he feels comfortable.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that then.
There's nothing wrong
That's
with that.
natural, that's intrinsic.
Okay, here's the question.
But when he
It has
goes,
to be tamed.
yeah,
Mhm.
has to be controlled.
Yeah.
That's where Sufism comes in, tasawwuf comes in, discipline.
Uh-huh.
As in knowing to what, how much exposure are you to give your nafs that's considered halal or jais for you. Beyond that act, like the example, of the father, him showing his robe and persona in the family, that type of robe is good. But when when he lets he now enforces that upon other people outside his family, then there an element of takabbur kicks in.
Yeah.
Now when he walks in the masjid,
Yeah.
he's upright and straight.
You have to tell him,
Yeah.
you're not my dad.
You're not
You're
my
his
dad, yeah.
dad.
So
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be a balance and the level of tarbiyah there,
Even
acknowledgement.
Even his own children of this particular one dad that I'm thinking about at the moment, they said they actually asked me a question. They said, Dad's always on about izzat. Is there a difference between Pakistani izzat and Islamic izzat? Yeah, because the thing is, there is, and then we actually looked into it, and there's something called
Yeah.
pride,
Yes.
like ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's, and I going on dangerous ground here because I know
No, go for it, go for it.
But yeah,
We're not on any
Hamza will-
channel.
Yeah.
Neither do we need to put a disclaimer before our videos.
Yeah, we should do, I think, sometimes. But it's a really touchy subject, and it's something natural. Even the women say, Pakistan. We're just from Pakistani men at the moment. Pakistani men, they present Islam to us. They go to the ulama, they to conferences, they go to classes, they come back and they preach to us, but they preach down to us. It's not like preach of like love or balance. It's like preaching down to us. And when they're preaching, it's spanking clear that, you know what, there's ego.
There's dominance here, yeah?
Yeah, there's dominance. And okay, here's the other
but
thing.
But it depends who they've taken that preaching from.
As they grow up, they say, the women, and the little girls, they grow up, they said, you know what, we found out why they were doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, they were doing it in order to control us via Islam for their own selfish happiness or authority. It wasn't for Allah. It wasn't like for us to get to paradise. In fact, one man, he said, I'm not educating my women. I said, why not? Because he told me, he said, why are you sending your women to classes? They'll become too clever and then they'll take you over. I said, okay, right, mashallah. They will know their rights.
Yeah, that's going to be.
They will know their
the
rights,
family.
sort of thing. And in fact, in one class where this has actually happened, one scholar, he was saying, the men will sit at the front, women will sit in the back, and he said, you guys aren't going to like this, and you girls will love this, yeah? You don't have to do anything for your men, yeah? You don't have to cook, clean, you don't have to rear their children, basically, he can get a nanny, and all this kind of thing, yeah? And the guys were like really upset at this, yeah? So then I actually asked Qari Sahab, how do you handle this? He goes, all you do is provide them with the very simple basics and see how they like it.
Basics.
So, but the thing is that nobody does that in reality. So why do men do this, male ego, Pakistanis at the very saying, and why do women then go towards, and this was the next part which I was going to say, feminism. Some scholars say that feminism in the last 100 years is the biggest block that hit Islam, because our families have been split. Women are now
I think an extreme always results in an extreme.
Yeah.
So there is no denying that in the subcontinent there has been a maltreatment of women.
Absolutely.
With religious, justifications as well.
Yeah.
So we as Muslims should admit to that and educate our men that you were wrong, what you did is wrong. Because an extreme would result in an extreme, isn't it?
I mean, the religious card has been used for a very long time in our community.
I'll give you a cool one.
Go on.
Is online there's a huge question about a certain hadith in regards to kind of woman saying no to her husband in regards to the conjugal relationship, and when people read that face value, it gives fuel to the feminists, so to speak, because they haven't understood it properly first and foremost, and then that's been used by our men in our societies, to
I mean, we don't reject
something.
the hadith in its totality.
It has its correct interpretation and fiqh, doesn't it?
I mean, there is to some reference. I may be wrong. May have to look this up. But even in the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, we say that Hafsa radiallahu anha refused to allow the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam in the house because he alayhi salatu wasallam was having the honey. So to an element, I mean, it's not. It has to be understood. When the no is put in, there is understanding behind it.
If you look at history, feminism is almost, it was going to happen. If you look at, you got women who are being locked up, maltreated, and they're not educated, and all of a sudden they're given, liberalism in abundance. So they haven't been totally educated themselves, which is again our fault as men. And then now they've got total freedom to say what they want and do what they want. So it's understandable where it came from.
I mean, currently, I remember somebody was saying like currently feminism is being used as men just wanting more access. It's just another name for feminism. It's been branded as feminism, but in reality, it's just access to more women, having more access to women, and that under this name.
So it works in the favor of men in the end.
It's still coming back to.
It's a fallacy. It's a big fallacy.
When women were, when they brought in television. When it first came, they used to, for example, advertise a car and used to have a fat woman next to it, and then they began to slim the women down because men were looking at the woman instead of the car. So therefore the slimming of the women on the screen came in. And then women, you can go out to work, and as Hafsab said, I actually agree with that. He was like, you have office affairs, you have other things like this, because women are now more accessible to it, and also as Hafs Fahim said that it was bound to happen. Same with the kids. You know, sometimes when parents are so controlling of their children, it's bound to happen. So now you have like soap operas where, for example, father and the little boy is only 10 years old, they have a bit of a tiff. It's the father who always goes to the little one to his bedroom and puts him and say, I am sorry. Not the other, that way round, but that way round. So it was like bound
If
to
you
happen.
roll
This is
back
our
the years,
fault.
that would never would happen.
No.
Never.
Because they would know this is the position of the father. I'm gonna have to go make up.
Yeah.
And that's what kept the family unit strong.
Now I'll say something a bit more chilly. So you know, with the scholars, yeah, certain things scholars have done wrong, but now the certain students are beginning to individually think without the sanad, without the transmission, because certain of the scholars, they were using knowledge in which way? Same as the father, same as everybody else. In other words, with the ego, so that they had the knowledge in the brain, but they didn't have the tazkiyah of the heart. So now what the students, if you look on social media, certain students of certain madaris, they coming out with their new interpretation of Islam. And when you speak to them alone, like what happened, certain things went wrong, certain things went wrong. So this is like an all-out thing. So the big question about selfishness or false pretense, etc., as the topic of today, you know, learning the deen, of course we should. Going to people who can help us do tazkiyah, of course we should. But the big problem is, how many pretenders are there? I mean, pretenders are all over the place. In fact, some people, some suited, booted, clean-shaven people came and knocked on my house, and they said to me, they thought this guy's really into Sufism for some obvious reasons. They said to me, okay, so we have never met a real Sheikh of Islam, like a spiritual Sheikh of Islam, like a Pir Sahib. You know, we never met any. And I said, and we say that none of them, there's no such real Sheikh or Murshid that exists in the world today. What do you say? And I said, you're right. They go, oh, we thought you were going to disagree.
We're gonna hear that.
I said, you're right. Because why do you say that? I said, because you met all the false ones. Yeah, if you met a real one, you wouldn't say this. So inshallah, we're ending it now.
But inshallah, we'll continue this discussion tomorrow.
Inshallah.
Yeah,
Exactly. Some new discussions coming in as well. Some spicy ones, some chili ones. Some you'll agree with, some you disagree with. And if you can please comment if you like or dislike.
Share
want
the link.
us to shut the show down. You want us to create another one. You want to, you know,
Let it all come.
Yeah, make it more technical. Inshallah, a fiqh, for example. Yeah, rather than.
Actually, in fact, I can even share this now. What we've put together a WhatsApp group for some of the local imams, and what we want is people to put forward their questions. All of that is being put together, collected in one group, and hopefully we'll get ulama to then give fatwa based on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Manchester
Proper
needs
legal
a focused Darul Iftar for it, and that's the objective of it, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. So any questions? I mean, even at the bottom of the screen, those people that are watching, I've given my number, Hafiz Zubair's number. Those that want to put forward any questions, please do let them come through on WhatsApp or directly message me myself. I'll put it onto that group, which only the ulama have access to. But hopefully we'll get to video responses for those questions, if they're not repeat questions, of course. And they can also be documented. If somebody wants a written fatwa, we can inshallah provide that service
So
as well.
what's the service standard? How soon do you reply?
So the video for a response, we're going to be recording straight after this one. So once we shut the cameras off, we leave.
Yeah.
So for example, I put a question at this minute now. When
Every day you buy, within 24 hours you'll have a response.
Okay, so 24
Inshallah.
hours.
If you want it
is
direct,
standard.
I'll give it you direct. If you can wait for it to be recorded and then put on, without mentioning the names, of course, leaving it anonymous, that will be put on as well.
Fatwa on demand.
Brilliant. When did the service start?
It started this morning.
This morning. That's okay because I put a question to you yesterday. Okay.
You missed out. Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.